There's an old saying, don't cut off your nose to spite your face, but apparently the modern left has heard nothing like it because they love doing it. The same people who throw around the terms neurodivergent, non-binary, queer-affirming, and gender-affirming care, these same people are very, very interested in making sure that you do not get Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off at work. And if they get their way, everybody will be more miserable because of more days at work and less time with their family. Now, obviously, I'm not sure these people have done anything to actually keep family in their lives rather than to just push people away because they're so miserable, but let's just say that the end result of a federal commission in Canada would be that Christmas is no longer celebrated because it is neo-colonial and must be done away with. That's right, Canada is in the process of canceling Christmas. So according to a federal commission, they declared Christmas holiday is religious intolerance. The Canadian Human Rights Commission, which wields broad quasi-judicial powers, argued that a day off on Christmas is discriminatory. Now, I know you may be having a moment of deep soul searching and you may be asking to yourself, what in the hell is wrong with these people? But let me give you an idea of exactly what is wrong with them. And if you already know before I say it that it has something to do with the fact that these people are blinded by hate, well, you would be correct. But let's see in what way. The report will go on and it will say an obvious example of the kind of Christmas hate and Christmas bigotry and intolerance that comes every time this year can be found in this way. An obvious example is statutory holidays in Canada. The report adds, noting that the Christian holidays of Christmas and Easter get days off, while non-Christians have to request special accommodations to observe their holy days. Now again, one of the real problems with this is that at the end of the day, all you're going to do is get less days off. And let's be really brutally honest here and just realize that the exact opposite is really true here, that leftists have been trying to force their holidays upon society. And the reason you guys aren't getting much traction is because all of your holidays have to do with like sexual deviancy. And if you really want to try to get days off and you want to start pushing those into federal holidays, you might have to create holidays that don't have to do with sticking your private parts in places. Now on the screen right now, you can see an example of all of the holidays here we have in America, or supposed holidays, which by the way, means holy day. And I maintain the term holiday here because these are holy days to the left. All of these holidays that you see on the screen right now are holidays dedicated to sex and who you have sex with. So again, I argue that the reason you don't get leftist holidays like we get holidays is because clearly we have better holidays than you. So quit being a party pooper and just go to the Christmas party. Ultimately, the vast majority of people who celebrate Christmas at these Christmas parties anyway probably are just going to go to get drunk, and so it won't be a real celebration of Christ because the culture has done everything they can to secularize Christmas. So please, quit being a party pooper and put your big boy pants on and just go to the party because nobody's shoving Jesus down your throat. You're not oppressed. The paper will go on to totally ignore the fact that Canada is pretty pluralistic, and rather it focuses primarily on one glaring exception to Canada's record on religious tolerance: the decades-long state push to eradicate traditional Indigenous spirituality in favor of Christianity, mostly through the Indian residential school system. The Canadian Human Rights Commission cites this not as an anomaly, but as emblematic of Canada's identity as a, quote, settler colonial state. So essentially the argument is that through Indian residential school systems, because they celebrate Christmas, they've tried to get rid of Indigenous Indian practices. So I want to get to that claim in just a moment, but I want to get to the latter claim about Canada being a settler colonial state. I find this hilarious because what's interesting is that they can declare Christmas a settler colonial holiday and that all Christians are settler colonialist, and then have a problem with stereotypes. I mean, even in the letter, if you read it, and I can link it down for you guys in the description of the podcast, you'll see that they give examples of the way in which society kind of ostracizes other people who are not Christians by like saying stereotypical things like, hey, you Jews are good with money or something like that. Or, hey, if you're Jewish, I'm going to hire you as an accountant in my business because obviously you Jews know how to deal with the gold. So ultimately, those are all stereotypes that should never be used. But of course, if you make a stereotype about a Christian as being all colonial settlers and being oppressors, well, then of course you can make that one, because I don't know if you know this by now, neocolonialism, settler, colonial state, all of that is code for I hate Christians, and I want everybody else to hate it too, because I love temper tantrums because I'm immature. Now, let's go back to the idea beyond the audaciousness to be totally stereotypical and then to blame other people for using stereotypes. I guess we should say one more thing about that some stereotypes are useful because they're true, and if they are, then hey. But more importantly, let's go back to the idea that because the school system in Canada allows breaks for Christmas, that somehow they are being intolerant and rude and mean to other Indian residential schools in the system, and that it favors Christianity more so than religious indigenous practice. So the only thing I can tell you about that is, yes, indeed, that is true, that is happening, and it is good. Because part of what you should understand as a progressive, if you consider yourself one, or if you just simply believe that we can get better over time and get a greater understanding of things over time, one of the things that you should know is that better ideas should supplant worse ideas. And this is the way of history. Not always, but when the world is working as it should, we should be in a position to supplant bad ideas with better ideas. So some of those indigenous practices, by the way, that she won't tell you about include human sacrifice, the virgin having their heart ripped out of their chest so that we can make sure we get rain in the next coming year. Now, I'm assuming this leftist lunatic writing this article doesn't really want those kind of practices mentioned or hopefully repeated. You never know, because cutting on your body is kind of the thing for the left these days. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's say they don't really want indigenous practices brought back as a celebration in the West. Let's just stick to the idea that Christianity has been a major benefit for the West. And it is one of the reasons why civilization has reached its peak in the present, because Christianity has helped civilize the West. And it is a good thing to celebrate the things that come along with Christianity. So all I can tell you is, friend, your bigotry is showing. And if you really want what's best for people, maybe we should just discuss what is the best ideas rather than discuss equality. If all ideas were equal, fine, celebrate them all equally. Rather, let's take the time to actually think about these things and realize what deserves to be celebrated, because it is a better thing to be celebrated. Until the left is willing to have those conversations, all I can tell you is to go to heaven with your neo-colonial settler nonsense.
So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.